All right, we're going to get started with today's webinar presentation. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a special webinar on a conversation about vapes, tobacco, exploitation, stress, and social justice. I'm Cheryl Johnson Ransaw, the Director for the Office of Employee Development and Wellness Services, known as EDWS. And on behalf of our team, we're really pleased to be in partnership with several campus groups that are here today to offer some expertise on a subject that we think that's really important to discuss on the Great American Smokeout Day. We are joined today by representatives from the School of Public Health, Integrated Health Services, and the Truth Initiative and Student Health Promotion. Just some housekeeping matters before we get started. Today's session will be recorded, and we invite everyone in attendance to use the chat box if you have questions or concerns or comments. And certainly, if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, we want to hear from you as well. We will monitor the chat box throughout the session, and there will be opportunities to have questions and comments addressed after each presentation, and then a special Q&A discussion at the end of today's presentation. Today is a special day that we are celebrating at Georgia State. This is the Great American Smokeout Day. It's a national observance, and we actually have been celebrating and observing this day for several years on Georgia State's campus. And we are recognizing today in particular because this is the 10th anniversary of Georgia State being a tobacco-free campus. And on this day, certainly we want to raise awareness about the hazards of tobacco use and provide education and talk about resources. And so today's panel is one that will provide an opportunity to certainly offer that information, as well as talk about lots of other topics, all the things that you wanted to learn, but perhaps you were afraid to ask. And so I'd like to give you the names of the panelists that will be offering a special PowerPoint presentation. And as I mentioned, at the end of each segment, there will be an opportunity for you to raise questions or comments, and then a Q&A discussion at the end. We have distinguished subject matter experts from several areas at Georgia State, starting with Dr. Lucy Popova, who is the Associate Professor of the Department of Health Policy and Behavioral Sciences in the School of Public Health at Georgia State. Dr. Claire Spears is the Associate Professor in the Department of Health Policy and Behavioral Sciences in the School of Public Health as well. Dr. Gina Griffith is the Director of the Integrated Health Services at Georgia State University. And we have a special guest speaker, Mr. Xavier Lynham, who is a representative from the Truth Initiative and also a graduate student here at Georgia State University. Our moderator for today will be Dr. Tammy Turner, who is the Assistant Director of Student Wellness, Student Health Promotion at Georgia State University. If there aren't any questions or comments at this time, we'd like to move right into our panel presentation, starting with Dr. Popova. So I'm going to pause here and let Dr. Popova set up her PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Cheryl. All right, could you see my presentation and hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so let's talk about vaping. Vaping, or e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, e-hookah, vapes, vapor pens, those are all different names that they're known as, came into US kind of slowly, first in around 2007. And the first generation looked just like cigarettes. And celebrities started picking it up. Here's Leonardo DiCaprio with a first generation e-cig. The products kept evolving and changing, and they referred sometimes as generations. So the second generation looked like, it's called like vape pen, so it looked more like a pen. And then later on, they became much more sophisticated and usually referred to as pods or mods or box pods, box mods. And Leonardo DiCaprio continued using his e-cigarettes, now switching to a box mod. So those were the three generations, and then came Juul. And this is really when the things went into overdrive. This is when the youth epidemic really began. The difference between Juul was they really perfected the way of nicotine delivery. So e-cigarettes before delivered nicotine, but kind of slowly and not to the same levels. With Juul, it was like vape on steroids. And it was small, it was easy to hide, and so a lot of kids were using it. And of course, a campaign featuring young users did not slow this down. As a result, where we are now, we are at about most recent data, this is from 2021, 14% of youth and about almost 10% of young adults are currently, meaning in the past 30 days, using e-cigarettes. So what is in e-cigarette or in e-liquid? What do you actually breathe when you are using the device? Most of it is propylene glycol or vegetable glycerin. And in the vaping vernacular, oftentimes referred to as PGVG. And you can hear about like the PGVG ratio. So this is like the bulk of the e-liquid. Then there is nicotine and flavorings. And we had a question earlier. Can you vape just flavors? A lot of people, when you ask them in the national surveys, they're like, oh yeah, I'm not using nicotine. I'm just using flavors. Can you do that? Skeptical cat is skeptical. When the e-liquids that are out there on the market, even the ones that say zero nicotine, when researchers take them and analyze what's in them, oftentimes they find nicotine in there. So there's really no strict regulation, and so you cannot know what actually you're vaping. And the problem with that, nicotine is not the only harmful chemical, and it's not the most harmful chemical in either cigarettes or vapes. So what you are inhaling, even when you're doing it without nicotine, which most likely you're not, you are inhaling over 2,000 chemicals. And kind of new studies come up and they find more and more chemicals, and some of them are like formaldehyde, which is used to embalm frogs or other dead things. And in terms of health effects, the research is emerging. So e-cigarettes haven't been around for a long time to really see what kind of long-term health effects they can cause. But we do know a lot about short-term effects now. So propylene glycol by itself, that the biggest part of the e-liquid, can irritate eyes and your breathing passages. Nicotine is highly addictive, and its use raises blood pressure, could potentially lead to cardiovascular, like heart problems down the line. It's also, because it is highly addictive, can cause withdrawals if you become addicted, and also using it when your brain is developing is really bad for the brain. Research shows that people who use e-cigarettes are more susceptible to infections, and there's been some research showing might be, among youth particularly, might make them more susceptible to catching COVID. And of course, if you remember, there was this e-cigarette or vaping associated lung injury, EVALI. So that was back in the fall of 2019, kind of right before the COVID started, when across the country, there were suddenly cases of people going to emergency rooms with failing lungs. And all of them were vaping. A lot of them were vaping THC or different cannabis compounds. And for a while, researchers scrambled and they were able to trace down the causes to primarily vitamin E acetate, which is one of the chemicals used to dissolve the THC in it. And so once we knew that, kind of people stopped buying THC cartridges off the street. People who are making them probably stopped using vitamin E acetate, and they've only kind of stopped and went away. But this was like one very acute issue, but there's still all the other issues with e-cigarettes that remain. And as I said, we don't really know whether e-cigarette use causes cancer, for example, because it's just, as I said, 2007 is kind of when it first started appearing in the US, and takes decades for lung cancer to evolve. But some research shows that there is, when you expose cells to the aerosol, and it's not the steam, by the way, that e-cigarettes produce, it's aerosol, it's like those little particles that contain all sorts of chemicals in them. The cells get inflamed, and that could potentially then lead to higher susceptibility to cancer. Is vaping a gateway drug? That's another question that people often ask, and there's debate in that. Some people say, no, it's kind of the same things that make people use other drugs, particularly smoking and vape. But summary of studies kind of shows that youth who vape are about 3 times more likely to start smoking later on. Again, more evidence is coming up, but that's what we know now. Having said all this, vapes are still less harmful, still less harmful than smoking. But it's not a high bar to clear. Smoking kills more people than heroin, rattlesnakes, earthquakes, floods, rabid dogs, shotguns, house fires, tornadoes, drunken drivers, and all the wars we've fought combined. And also AIDS epidemic and opioid overdoses and everything else. Throw it in there, smoking still kills more people. It kills half the users. It's the only consumer product that kills half the users when people use it correctly. Think about it. But also think about it, that there are now more former smokers than current smokers. And if you do smoke, or if you know somebody who smokes, the best thing you can do for yourself, by far, is quit smoking. And if you've tried quitting and you weren't successful, the next presentation will talk about how to do it better, but also just try again. The biggest predictor of quitting is actually the number of tries you've had it. And if some people do try quitting with e-cigarettes, and basically the only time you should be using a cigarette, if you're a smoker and you can't quit and you put cigarettes away and you use e-cigarettes. If you do not smoke, you should not be using e-cigarettes. That's just something that you shouldn't do. But again, if you're a smoker and you could try, feel free to try it. But again, try and quit e-cigarettes and everything else. And if you have any questions and want to chat, we're here. Love hearing stories about people who are their journeys through smoking, through quitting, and we're always here to support you. So reach out with any questions, and thank you.
Thank you so much. You did a wonderful job of covering so many of the questions. I don't see any questions in the chat, but as the next presenter prepares their slides, I'll just pause for a second too to see if maybe somebody didn't type anything in, but if they do have questions, we do have one comment, shocking. I'm guessing too that comment was the shocking, again, kills half of users when used correctly. That's and all the wars ever fought. That's an amazing statistic. We all know it's not healthy for us. But that was amazing, and so I'm assuming, Terry, you also were shocked by that. I know I was. So yeah, let me pause and see, does anybody else have any questions? Anybody want to jump in? All right, is our next presenter ready? Again, thank you very much. And go ahead, Dr. Spears, it's all yours.
All right, can you hear me and see my slides?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, I'm Claire Spears. Thank you so much, Dr. Popova, for that awesome presentation. And it was just kind of a perfect lead in here. So now we're going to talk about quitting tobacco and stress and whether mindfulness might be helpful in that regard. So most smokers want to quit. As Dr. Popova said, smoking is the #1 cause of preventable death and disease, both in the US and worldwide. People know that it's bad for them, and the vast majority of people who smoke want to quit. Unfortunately, there are also really profound tobacco-related disparities for certain subpopulations, primarily because of their exploitation by the tobacco industry, which Xavier is going to talk about in a little bit. But we see higher rates of smoking and lower rates of quitting and higher rates of tobacco-related diseases and death in certain populations, like those from lower socioeconomic status backgrounds, certain racial ethnic minoritized groups, and people with mental health conditions and others. So most people want to quit. There are huge benefits of quitting, of course, in the long term. We all know about those benefits in terms of reducing risk for cancer, heart disease, and things like that. Often people focus less on the more immediate benefits, and I really want to emphasize there are so many short-term benefits of quitting smoking and other tobacco use, particularly with quitting smoking. Just in the first 20 minutes, we see improvements in blood pressure. The first few days and the first few weeks, people see improvements in their sense of smell and taste and breathing and being able to get around a little bit easier. So although most people want to quit, most people who try to quit, particularly those who try to quit on their own cold turkey, are not very successful. We know that about half of people who smoke try to quit each year, and only about 7% are successful. But most importantly, like Dr. Popova has said, try again. That is a key part of the message today. And there are lots of evidence-based programs like counseling, medication, digital programs that can help. So this is a really important message. If you've tried to quit before, you didn't fail at quitting, you just haven't finished the process. And that's where a lot of the people that we work with who smoke and have smoked for many, many years get down on themselves. But the fact of the matter is, the more you try, the more likely you're going to be successful in the future because you learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So why is quitting tobacco so hard? There are really a combination of biological factors, environmental factors, and psychological factors that combine to create a very powerful addiction. So nicotine is an incredibly powerfully addictive chemical. And tobacco use over time becomes really strongly associated with all kinds of triggers and cues in the environment. So often people will start to use tobacco when they wake up in the morning or with their coffee or when they're with certain friends or coworkers or in the car or certain places, bars, social settings. And those become strong triggers. There are also a number of psychological factors, especially stress, depression, and anxiety can be strong triggers for smoking. In our programs, we emphasize what we call the ACE strategies, which stands for avoid, cope, escape. And these are really great strategies for managing triggers for tobacco use. Honestly, these are great strategies for changing any habit you might want to change in your life. So avoiding certain triggers. If you know that being around certain people, certain places are going to be strong triggers, then try to change up your routine. Coping when you can. So coping with stress, coping with cravings, and we'll talk about mindfulness in a moment as one way to help cope. And then escape when you need to. So there are often things that you can't completely avoid, you've tried to cope, and that's when you just need to get out of there, escape. So an example would be you're in a social situation where someone is using tobacco right around you, blowing it in your face, even though you're trying to cope. It's becoming very difficult, so escape, get out of there. So let's talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness has gotten to be kind of a popular term and concept in our culture. And when I talk about what mindfulness is, I often start with what mindlessness is. So I don't know if anybody can relate to this person on the left, but I certainly can. And this resonates with me because I have a dog. So I might be walking my dog around the neighborhood. And even though it's a beautiful day, we're having a wonderful walk. In my mind, are a zillion different things, things about things that happened earlier, things that I have to do later. You know, we're often multitasking and thinking about lots of things at once. Mindfulness is really about slowing down to pay attention to the present moment, to what's going on right here, right now. So if you're open to it, you can practice with me. We're going to do a little bit of mindfulness practice just for a couple of minutes here. We'll keep it pretty short, but we're going to do some mindful breathing. If you'd like, you can close your eyes. If you'd rather keep your eyes open, that's totally fine. Just kind of look down in front of you. And sitting up straight, putting your feet flat on the floor. If you want, you can take a stretch, do whatever you need to just get comfortable in your chair. Taking a couple of deep breaths, focusing on breathing all the way into your belly, maybe imagining your belly filling up like a balloon. And for the next couple of minutes, your only goal is to do your best to pay attention to your breathing. Just focusing on what it feels like as you breathe in and out. So noticing the fact that you're breathing. You might notice it in your nose, back of the throat, your chest, or your belly. Just noticing what it feels like as you breathe in and out. And as you do this, sooner or later, your mind will wander to lots of different things. And that is perfectly normal. That just means you're human. Doesn't mean you're not doing it right. So whenever your mind wanders to something other than the breath, just notice that. Maybe take an attitude of curiosity. It's interesting where the mind can go. And then gently bring your focus back to the breath. Every time your attention wanders, just gently come back to your breathing. Taking another couple breaths in and out. And we'll transition out of the mindfulness practice. Take another stretch if that feels good. Open your eyes. And I want to emphasize that this is the kind of thing that you can do anytime, anywhere. Some people like to do more what we call formal mindfulness practices, like meditation, sort of like a sitting meditation or a breathing meditation, like what we just did. But really, anytime you're slowing down to focus on what's going on right here, right now, you're practicing mindfulness. So you might think about ways you can bring awareness to routine activities, things like washing the dishes, taking a shower, walking, listening to music, just slowing down to notice when otherwise our minds might be going a mile a minute in different directions. Pausing throughout the day just for a few mindful breaths. Stopping and stretching. This is something I often try to remind myself to do throughout the day. If I'm in my office and I can just take 1 minute to stop and breathe and stretch, it makes a huge difference, for me at least. Eating one bite mindfully, seeing if you can slow down and really notice the taste, the textures of your food. And this is a little bit cheesy, but stop and smell the roses, savor the good stuff. And, even in the moment, if you can think about what's one or two good things that maybe have happened today, even small things like seeing someone or seeing something that made you laugh, or the fact that the sun is out, and taking a moment to really notice it and savor it. I also really love this stop practice that we teach in our programs, and it just stands for stop, take a breath, observe, proceed. And this is something you can do anytime, anywhere. Here are a bunch of mindfulness resources. Of course, there are lots of apps out there. Georgia State has some wonderful resources, including through the Employee Development and Wellness Services, as well as some others that you'll hear about in just a bit today. There are some local mindfulness centers that you might want to check out. And then the UCLA has a mindful awareness research center that is one nice online resource where you can listen to a bunch of different guided audio. So they're all for free, different lengths, different types of mindfulness practice if you just want to go around and go online and listen to some. And last, I want to really highlight that we have a quit smoking research study going on in the School of Public Health to help adults quit smoking cigarettes. So this is both for people who are part of the GSU community and also more widely. So if you know anybody who is an adult who wants to quit smoking, please refer them to our program. You can see here our website and our phone number. They're welcome to contact me directly. Everybody in our study is given evidence-based treatment to help them quit smoking, as well as payment for completing the study surveys. And I'd be happy to talk more, but I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Spears. Lots of chat in the chat area that everybody liked and appreciated the mindfulness breathing activity. So thank you so very much for sharing that. We also had a question earlier in terms of what we as a community can do to reduce vaping on campus. And I shared our tobacco-free policy and website. Vaping is included in that tobacco-free policy, but just wanted to pause for a second if any of the other presenters want to just comment on what they think that we can do. And it also leads to a question I have for you, Dr. Spears. So sorry for giving you two questions at once, but what can we do as a community here at Georgia State? But also, what are some of your suggestions as some of us are going home to our loved ones and maybe, encountering people who are smoking? How do we help those folks? Maybe we're not the smoker, but we want to help somebody else. What would be your suggestion?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think number one, just being positive and supportive and encouraging, because like we've said, for so many people, it takes a number of tries to be successful, and people can often get really down on themselves because they've tried many times and it's really frustrating. It's a hard thing to do. So supporting them, encouraging them to continue trying to quit, asking them how you can help. I think often people forget that oftentimes one of the best things we can do is just to ask them, how can I support you? Because it might be different for different people. And then if they're interested, letting them know about different resources, both at GSU and outside. A really great one that anyone can use is the Tobacco Quit line, the national line, which is 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And by calling that line, people can talk to a quit coach over the phone, and they can also typically be mailed nicotine replacement therapy for free, nicotine patches and gum and lozenges and stuff like that. So those are great resources.
Great, thank you. And Terry had mentioned in the chat, I like the idea of socialized breathing and mindfulness over stop smoking, kind of a backdoor non-critical approach. And I think that everyone would on the call would say, like, right, changing behavior, whatever the behavior, and particularly smoking, is tough. And so keep trying. And so, right, we don't want to be critical of anybody. as they're trying to change their behavior, because behavior change is not easy. So we just want to continue to encourage. So I think that's a great leadway into Dr. Griffith is going to be able to share some resources, both for us on campus and off campus, related to this topic. So please, again, continue to share questions and thoughts in the chat, and I'll give it to you, Dr. Griffith.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Gina Griffith, and I'm the Director of Integrated Health Services. Can everybody see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to be talking to you about the resources to support you. We have a lot of great resources. It'll go on to the next one. There we go. So most people who successfully quit vaping or smoking have a quit plan. And so this quit plan usually consists of a quit date that they have set, and they have shared this date with somebody, so that person can kind of act as your accountability partner. Another part of a successful plan is to think about what vaping has cost you. So it may have cost you in terms of money, in terms of friendships, your health. So just to kind of take an inventory of what it has cost you, and that'll help you give you the why you're wanting to quit, so that when you do have those cravings, you can remember, your why. So what is your why? And then also know what your triggers are. What are your social, your emotional, or your pattern triggers? So are there different times when you usually like to smoke? Like, for example, when you go out with friends at a bar. And so that might be one of your triggers. So you want to come up with some skills to help you when you're experiencing those kinds of triggers. And you may decide that, for the first few weeks of trying, that you'll avoid those kind of social situations, for example. And then you want to get some supports on board. And that's where we're going to be talking about a lot of different resources. So things such as counseling, medications that can be helpful to you, social supports and skills, and different distractions. And one great resource is smokefree.gov. They have a quit plan, which is pretty cool because it'll go through the plan with you, and you can do an individualized plan just for you. So Georgia State University has some great resources for you, for students at Georgia State. And so we have counseling. We have a 24-hour support if anybody is in crisis. If you do want to go to counseling, what you would do is you would call 404-413-1640, and you can get a same-day consultation with a counselor. We also have psychiatry available, so if you are needing any kind of medication. We also have wonderful wellness programming and stress less technology that includes some technology to help you to be more mindful. And so those are some things for you to check out. Due to COVID, we hadn't been using a lot of those technologies, but we're starting to use them again. So I'm really happy to see that those are coming back in. So we have things such as Muse, biofeedback equipment, and then we also have some virtual reality equipment as well to help you to take mindful walks and things like that. We also have individual counseling as well. And we also have health coaching through student health promotion. So you can meet with a health educator, certified health educator, and talk to them about your use, and they can help you come up with a plan if you decide that you would like to stop. We also have some free online tools that you can use to see how you're doing in terms of your behavioral health. We have a free MindWise screen that you can take. We also have an e-checkup for alcohol, and then one for marijuana, because we know that a lot of times students who are vaping are also drinking. And so if you lower your drinking, then you might be likely to lower your vaping as well. So they can sometimes go hand in hand. So it's good to kind of check in and do a little checkup and see how you're doing. You can go on their healthpromotion.gsu.edu website to take those various screens. And if you want to meet with a health coach, you can reach out to Student Health Promotion, tturner58@gsu.edu. We also have a lot of virtual programming available to you that a lot of it has started during COVID, and it went so well that we decided to keep it going. So we do have peaceful place meditations every Monday morning at 10 a.m. on Be Well Panthers. And so this will help you with those kind of stress triggers. So it'll help you to kind of learn how to breathe and be more mindful and learn how to meditate. So those are every Monday morning at 10 a.m. We also have mindful walks, wellness walks on Fridays at 10 a.m. And then throughout the week, we have a lot of different programming, such as journaling to help you get your feelings out. We have Wellness Wednesday, where you learn about different health topics. And we have Foodie Friday, where you can learn about healthy eating and having better nutrition. They also have, they can teach you mindful eating. Student Nutrition Services can teach you how to eat mindfully. Um, and this can help on your journey to learning more mindfulness. I also wanted to mention De-Stress Mondays. Every Monday is De-Stress Monday, so you'll learn different ways to de-stress as well. The University System of Georgia has also purchased for its students what's called Christie Campus. And so with Christie Campus, you get the opportunity to either have a counselor online, or you also can do have psychiatric care. And then they also have internet-based cognitive behavioral training. So they do 8 sessions of cognitive behavioral training. And all of this is free to you. You would just call this number that's on the screen. So you may want to take a picture of this with your phone. Christie Campus is free for students. Again, it's counseling. It's also, they have health coaches who can talk to you. We call them health navigators, who can talk to you and give you referrals in the community. And then also they have psychiatric care as well. So for some people, they decide that in terms of trying to stop vaping, that they want to do counseling, and then also they want to use medications to help them with their cravings or their urges, and then with the withdrawal symptoms. And so there are some medications out there. So we have the Student Health Clinic on campus. They do have Wellbutrin in their formulary. So if that is something that you're wanting to do, you can speak with one of the healthcare providers at the Student Health Clinic. You can call 404-413-1930 to schedule an appointment. Also, nicotine patches, inhalers, nasal spray, gum, and lozenges can help with those, urges that you may have. And a lot of these are available over the counter, and some websites, as our former presenter discussed, also will send them to you for free, which is great. If you need a safe place to talk, check out Together All. This is something that has been purchased for you as students. So this is a community where you can get on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it is anonymous, and you can have peer-to-peer support. And sometimes people like to go on and form their own little supportive communities. So you could create one around vaping. So people who are trying to stop vaping or stop smoking, and you will have support from your peers. And this is monitored by a counselor to keep the environment safe. There's also resources available on there. There's self-assessments. There's little mini courses on how to manage stress, anxiety. This is a really great tool for students. Again, it's called togetherall.com. It's called Together All, and you can access it at togetherall.com, or you could use that QR code and use your Georgia State email to register. We also have the collegiate recovery community is available to students who are in recovery from any kind of substance. And they meet on Wednesdays and Fridays from 5 to 6:30. Again, this is another peer-to-peer support, and it is located on campus at Student Center West, room 482. If you're wanting to learn how to build your resilience, so you can bounce back when you make a mistake, because you've heard from our other panelists how sometimes it takes a few tries to reduce your use. And so if you want help bouncing back when you make a mistake, Panther Strong is a great resource for you. It helps you to learn how to be more resilient. It helps you to reduce your anxiety or depression. It also has mindfulness activities on there. You can meditate, you can breathe, practice your breathing. And it's like having a resilience coach in your pocket. And so it'll check in with you every day and see how you're doing. And you can access this at, you can download the Driven Resilience app at the Apple or Android App Store. And it's called the Driven app, but for Georgia State, we call it Panther Strong. But when you download it, you download the Driven app, and the access code is PORAJE. Again, PORAJE. And then there are some great resources as well for faculty and staff through EDWS. And there are a lot of different resources and programs that are available for you also through the University System of Georgia. And so these are the websites that you can go to obtain some wonderful resources to support you as faculty and staff. Some additional resources are smokefree.gov has some wonderful tips and tools. One of the things that they suggest, they said a lot of students have a hard time quitting because they're used to having something in their hand. And so one of the things that they suggest is holding a straw or breathing through a straw, and that helps to reduce cravings. The truth.com has some great information as well. Also, the American Lung Association has classes. They're available at lung.org. They also have quit guides that you can download that kind of help you come up with a plan to quit. And then cdc.gov has some wonderful information as well. They have this page that shows you different medications that can help you. And then when you click on the different ones, it tells you how to use them. So it'll tell you how to put on a patch, for example, nicotine patch. There are great apps out there as well. So an app that University System of Georgia has purchased for our students is Headspace. And Headspace is a wonderful place to learn how to meditate, to practice mindfulness. It helps you improve your sleep and reduce stress. It's available free to Georgia State University students at work.headspace.com/USG Georgia State/member enroll. That's a long one, so you might want to take a picture of that one. But again, it's free to you. Just register using your Georgia State email. Another app online is through smokefree.gov is called Quick Start. And this is a wonderful resource to help you become smoke-free. And you can monitor your progress. You can earn badges. It kind of tracks how you're doing and gives you different games to help you when you're having cravings. So that's a great resource as well. Here are some people want to talk to somebody. And so here are some resources if you're wanting to talk to a counselor, but you're not necessarily wanting to go in for counseling. You can call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. There's also live help that you can call, and there's also resources in Spanish as well. Well, that's all that I had for my presentation. I wanted to check in to see if anybody had any questions. We went through that pretty quickly.
Thank you so much, Dr. Griffith. I'm familiar with the resources, and wow, we have a lot of resources. So I do hope that students whether you're trying to help somebody or you're trying to quit, feel supported. Um, there are definitely resources and hopefully whatever meets your need. Interestingly, Dr. Griffith, when you were speaking, um, we forgot, and I forgot to mention to you also that obviously we hope that you're following us, Be Well Panthers, on Instagram. Each Monday we offer a quit tip. So follow hashtag Quit Monday Panthers. So like I said, we have a lot of resources, and so
Thank you for saying that. Yes, Tammy, that's a huge one.
yeah. So
We
we are
absolutely.
here for you, and if you're not sure again what resource is best for you, I encourage you, yeah, please reach out to Student Health Promotion. I think that might be your easiest, quickest that we could help walk through what might be best for you. Not everything works for everybody, and like Dr. Griffith had mentioned, maybe you don't want to go into counseling, maybe you just want to talk, maybe you don't want to talk, and together all is better for you, so you can chat online. We're
Mhm.
here to help you figure out and help others figure out what might be the best route for you as an individual. So thank you, Dr. Griffith.
Mhm.
We
And
will,
one of the things that I like about
oh,
the Quit Monday is that they offer some wonderful tips. Like sometimes it might
mhm,
say 5 tips to help you stop. So please follow us on Be Well Panthers.
yes, shameless plug that we make all the time. So we will move on to our um, final presenter with the Truth Initiative to give you a different perspective, a larger perspective too. So I will mute myself and leave it to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Xavier Lynham. I'm a graduate student here at Georgia State University. I also work with the Mellon Foundation, Andrew Mellon Foundation here at the university, and I am a trainer with Truth Initiative. So I have a couple of things I'd like to share with you today. I want to kind of go off track. I heard a question about how how do we, get to people, our loved ones? How do we start that conversation? How do we advocate in the home or make impact with our loved ones and our friends and our peers? Um, and I have some things to say about that. Now I've been working with you for a couple of years. We have great testimonials that I can share. So I'm going to get through all of the boring stuff, and I am going to yeah, I'm gonna get through the boring stuff and then we can talk about the fun stuff. So I hope you can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
I'm gonna, okay, yeah, okay, great. Well, okay, first of all, this is a wall inside of our building. So whenever you come and visit us at Truth, you'll see this beautiful wall and it just reminds us to breathe. And we actually take this wall with us on the road. So anytime we're traveling, and you'll see we have a huge trailer. It goes in our trailer and it just reminds all of us to breathe. Um, yeah, so today we're going to talk about the epidemic that is youth vaping, and then we'll have a little bit of fun. So it, first of all, this is absolutely an epidemic, and these are at epidemic levels. As someone else previously mentioned, high schoolers are using e-cigarettes at 14.1%, and the vast majority of them are saying that they use them because they love the flavors, or they come in flavors that I like. Now, saying that you like the flavors that something comes in is not bad. If my mom offers me an apple or a pear, it's great to love those flavors. But when we're talking about e-cigarette use, and the thousands of chemicals that go into this stuff, it's not okay, especially when we consider that nicotine is especially dangerous for teens and young adults in potential damaging of their brains. And also nicotine, not only in brain development, but also in the creation of addiction in general. So that's a huge issue, and we want to talk about a couple of solutions that we have here at Truth. So, of course, at the national level, we've asked the FDA several times to ban flavored tobacco products. And what's actually so sad is that we worked so hard from the 90s on to the early 2000s to get tobacco use in youth and young adults, particularly 12 to 25-year-olds, um, down from the teens to, well within the single digits. And we were doing so well, and then vaping came along, and we had to start all over again. So it's actually very, very unfortunate. But we have a couple of things that we're doing to help mitigate this. And first of all, our appeal is at the beginning of the presentation, but we've talked about tons of resources that we have at Georgia State. And actually, presenter prior to me mentioned Truth. We have a ton of resources. If you'd like to get in contact with Truth, please text Ditch Vape to 88709, and we would love for you to be a part of a free and anonymous text messaging program to help you quit, or a family member, a loved one, or a peer. We're actually very proud of this initiative. We've helped almost 500,000 people help in their process to quit vaping, and we're very proud of this. So we would love for you guys to be a part of this, or to get somebody else involved that you hold dear. So that's one thing. We want to talk about two separate campaigns that we've done. Truth is actually very funny, and what we did a couple years back is we created a fake vaping company called Depression Stick. And this was to raise awareness on the fact that nicotine can create anxiety and amplify feelings of depression. Um, and that's one way of doing it. But our main way, our reason for doing this is there's such a lack of transparency within the tobacco industry, and it's a very predatory industry. And you have to understand that people that are subject to being victims to this industry are not doing it, willfully. No one wakes up in the morning and says, "I really want to be addicted to nicotine or to vaping or anything." And this is absolutely a predatory industry, and it's terrible. And this is just one way we ask for transparency within the community, or the tobacco industry. Um, Tons of, they have tons of things talking about how this is good for you, how this, um, lowers levels of feelings of depression or anxiety. That's the data show that that's just simply not true. Okay. And okay, our second thing is breath of stress air. So you'll see on the right, let's see if I can pull up the second one. Yeah. So we have this beautiful imagery showing, clouds and our pretty little letters over here. Um, and if you ignore, maybe if you don't even, read English, this would look totally fine. But this campaign just shows that, or it's attempting to highlight the fact that, vaping nicotine is something that these companies show as, a breath of fresh air. And this is saying that once, they've got you in the hook where you're willing to partake in this, it absolutely isn't a breath of fresh air at all. It's actually a breath of stress air. And this is actually a campaign that we ran, particularly on TikTok. We had huge success on TikTok and Instagram, and it just showcases that the fallacies and the lies of this industry are just very apparent, very apparent. It's not letting me. Next slide. All right, next slide. So we talked about this huge issue. This is not a joke. This is not funny. And but we also have to figure out, what can we do? And from in a corporate level, we can look at a couple of things, or what we can do. And these are actually things that we do at Truth to better understand our audience and to serve them better. But I also think, relating back to that question of what you can do in your homes or with your peers or loved ones, these are objectives that you can take as well into your lives. Number one is experience. Um, you have to be authentic with people, um, and you have to form a level of understanding to build trust with people. And it says here, truth experience is the living representation of our brand. It bleeds cool, it's authentic, and it's peer to peer. We have no time for being phony or to seek seniority, to for any of that. We have to understand the authenticity wins every time. Number two is observer observation. We have, at least at Truth, everything that we do is online and readily available. And we are an open book for any type of questions that anyone has. And I think that's also important when you talk about relating to other people. You have to build, you have to, live in a glass house, if you will, because, if you're not authentic and honest with people, it's hard to build that trust. And last is love. We at Truth always love to lead with love. Um, not no, no pun intended, but we have to lead with love to gain the trust of our audience and to push forward our agendas in helping youth and young adult groups. So I'll skip this slide. Um, we have to understand that in knowing how to serve the people in our community, our families, our loved ones. And that's important in understanding as well that this is absolutely a social justice issue. On the right side of my screen, you'll see that LGBTQ young people are twice as likely to smoke than their heterosexual identifying peers. And that is not an accident. I mean, young people are stressed out in general, so there's no reason for a twice as likeliness for this to happen. As the tobacco industry targets communities of color, LGBTQ, um, young people, and other groups disproportionately with these deadly products. And we've asked the FDA, of course, to remove flavored tobacco products, but this is absolutely deadly. Um, and speaking to that, one of our activists, Lincoln Mundy, created a film called Black Love Lives, Black Lungs that illustrates and brings this topic to light. A discussion about tobacco in the Black community. And actually, in the fall, we actually got to fly up to DC and see the premiere of part two. So you can check all this out on any streaming service. And it really just opens up that conversation about the tobacco industry and this specific community. Number two is the environment. So tobacco and vape absolutely destroys our planet. It destroys the air that we're breathing, the water we drink, and it makes, our public spaces unenjoyable. And because of that, we've actually asked the National Park Service to declare that all public lands are tobacco and vape free, 100%. Okay. So our key learnings today, this is in regard to advocacy and being able to connect with people. And this can be seen on the corporate level or in your peer one-to-ones. Okay, so number one is that advocacy is an ongoing process that is intersectional. Okay, there's no one size fits all with this. Everything is just so interconnected and just so many components that everything has to be assessed in this kind of soup. There's tons of things that go on with advocacy. You can't just think it's just one thing, okay? And that's actually what the next slide talks about. It's not a one size fit all. There's many ways to go about impacting your communities and making impact within not just your communities in the world, okay? And choose what works for you and make it your own. Become your best advocate, first of all, and stick with what you know, stick with what you're good at, and you'll have great results, okay? Number three is building the narrative on your campus can incorporate multiple things. Now, when you look at your standard, let's say biology students aren't robots, they have lives, they love Netflix, they get the occasional drink here or there. They have favorite fruits and foods, and to think that there's only one way of going about things negates the fact that people are multifaceted, and you have to incorporate new things, multiple things to stay relevant. It has to be peer to peer to make the impact that you want, especially within youth and young adult persons. And lastly, the balance between planning and flexibility is critical for success today. Like I said, I went a little bit off script today, and that was important for making the impact that I wanted. It's going to be the same with you as you try to make an impact in your families, with your relatives, peer-to-peers, and corporately. Okay. And now I will take some questions if there are any, but the main takeaway that you should take is that vaping is bad. This industry is very predatory and it's killing millions of people every year. And lastly, that this is something that we can absolutely solve. We got so close with combustible cigarettes, and we're still fighting to work with e-cigarettes and vapes. So this is absolutely something that can be solved, and we look forward to that in the future. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Xavier. I just added the Black Lives, Black Lungs to our Be Well Panthers YouTube, added to our playlist. We have a playlist hashtag Tobacco Free Panthers. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem. No problem.
As a chance to check that out. So thank you to all of our presenters. Are there any questions from the chat? I see the chat. I don't see any questions. Let me just pause and see if anybody would like to unmute themselves to ask a question. Again, just be mindful of everybody's time. As Cheryl mentioned in the beginning, we will have, we did record this, so we will have this recording. And, you know, we're going to try to use some of the recording on our social media to share with others who were not able to be present. And so, again, if you have questions, please throw them in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself. We'd love to hear from you. Again, thank you all for attending. Do any of the presenters have any last final words? Okay, so
I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for coming today, and good luck on your journey. Everybody has their own journey, and please just keep going and reach out for the support when you need it. We're here for you.
absolutely. So yes, thank you to everybody for participating. Thank you so much to all of our presenters. I know we asked you to be on a tight timeline. I know each of you could have taken the hour and would have been useful and helpful. So please, everybody, feel free to reach out to the presenters with more questions or reach out to myself or Cheryl, and we can make sure to get you a copy of the presentation if that would be helpful to you. So without hearing anything else, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Yes, we are cheering for those of you who have quit, are trying to quit, are going to quit, or are helping those along the way. Again, 10 years of a tobacco-free campus is something to celebrate. Doesn't mean that there's not still work to be done. We know that those tobacco companies are working hard, so there's plenty to be done, and appreciate each one of you for taking time to at least be informed. And with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful day.